In this video, I'm going to be discussing function notation and how to evaluate a function. So let's first start by talking about function notation. Now, function notation simply is when I write something like this: f of x equals 2x plus 1. So this right here, this little piece f parentheses x, is function notation. Now ultimately what this does is this little f with parentheses replaces a y. So instead of writing y equals 2x plus 1, we write f parentheses x. Now what this does is it does two things. So function notation does two things. One, it identifies the equation as a function, and two, it names the function. Names the function. So in the example I gave up here, f parentheses x equals 2x plus 1, we have now named this equation f. That is the name we are talking about. So if I were to have a different function, let's say I had a g instead of an f out here, equals 3x minus 9, I can now talk about the function f, and you'll know that I'm talking about this purple equation. Whereas if I were to talk about the equation g, I would be talking about this equation right here. Now one of the things we're going to focus on today is evaluating a function. So here I have a function. Let's stick with the one we were working with. So f of x equals 2x plus 1. And what we want to do is we want to find f of 2. Find f of 2. Now let me talk a little bit about how to read this phrase right here. So this right here, f parentheses x, we read this as f of x. That's how we say this. F of x equals 2x plus 1. Ultimately what we're saying is f is the operation we are doing on the value of x. Now let's go back to that g up here. So when I have g parentheses x equals 3x minus 9, this is called g of x. Again, we're saying that g is the operation that we are performing on x. So when I'm finding f of 2, what I'm really asking for is what do I get when I perform this operation, on the value of 2. So what I'm going to do, so f of 2, all I do inside of my function is I replace all of the x's with 2. Now one thing to note when you are evaluating a function, be sure to put parentheses around the value that you are plugging in. So this tells me to do the operation of multiplication. So I do 2 times 2 is 4, then I add 1. So this tells me that f of 2 equals 5. So if I were to graph an ordered pair, this forms the ordered pair to 5. So 2 maps to 5. Let's look at g over here. Let's go ahead, let's find g of 3. So what that means is I'm going to perform the operation of g onto 3. So I replace my x with 3, and then I do the calculation. So g of 3, that would be 3 times 3, 9 minus 9. So g of 3 equals 0. So again, if I were to write this as an ordered pair, it'd be 3, 0. Now if you notice, I leave f of 2 and g of 3. We're not going to divide anything. We're not doing anything fancy. We leave this to say that, let me write this out, the function value at x equals 2 is 5. That's what this statement says. The function value at x equals 2 is 5. F of 2 equals 5. let's take a look at some more examples. Let's do a little bit more complicated example. So let's do f of x equals, how about negative 2x squared plus 3x minus 3. And let's calculate f of, we'll do 4. So what that means is wherever there's an x, and since I have multiple x's, we're going to replace both of those with a value of 4. Minus 3. And then I do the operation. So, negative 2 times 16, make sure you do the exponent before you multiply, plus 12 minus 3. So f of 4 equals negative 32 plus 12 minus 3. And then I go ahead and add that, so that would be negative 20, negative 23. So the function value at 4, f of 4, is negative 23. And if I were to write this as an ordered pair to graph, it would be the pair 4, negative 23. Let's do one more. How about h of x equals 2x over x plus 1? And I want to find, let's do h of, let's say 5. So h of 5. So what that means again, find the function value at 5. We replace each of these x's with a 5. So 2 times 5 over 5 plus 1. So following order of operations, we're going to do 2 times 5 on top, 10 over 6. And well, if I want to simplify that, I would have 5/3. So that means that h of 5 equals 5/3. And again, if we write an ordered pair for graphing, it would be the ordered pair 5/3. So that is a brief introduction into function notation and how to evaluate a function.